I'm glad you remembered.
Yes, recording's in progress. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar series, No Kitchen Closings, Why Title Companies Are Important. On this series, I have the fabulous Taisha Lewis, who is the boss in her field at Key Title Group. Hi, Taisha. She'll be joining us. Well, she's on here, but she's going to be speaking in a few. So I know I asked everybody to drop where you're from in the chat box so we can see. I know we got people from New York, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas. Drop it in there. Make sure you grab your notebook and stay until the end. We got some really, really good information for you. So meet your hosts. That's me, Verna Stone, the creator and CEO of Black Girls Guide to Real Estate Investing. I work with women, and I put in parentheses, and men who want to take charge of their future. I work with people from personal mentorship to different programs or stages within their real estate career and development. I work with a lot of first time real estate investors too, getting them started and getting them on the right track. I'm a proud first graduate of Howard University. I purchased my very first rental property at the age of 24. As I mentioned before, I'm kind of dating myself, but I've been in the game for a very long time. Been there, done that, then can write a book or teach a class about it. So that's what I'm doing. My portfolio consists of buy and hold, Airbnbs, multifamily, midterm rentals, and land, wholesale properties, house hack and flip. And as I mentioned, I've been house hacking before they made it that cute name. We just called it living your rental property, and that's what I've been doing. I have mentored students to become very successful real estate investors. If you follow me on social media, I do post a lot of my students' success stories of getting started in real estate investing and scaling up, their first flip or their first wholesale and their progression. I am a proud wife, mother of two. My kids are my inspiration and my daily motivation. They push me to continue to be a better person.
Because I need a lunch bag as well. So
So, ways to invest. If you're not on mute, can you please mute yourself? I'm trying to see if I can mute everybody, but if not, okay, I think I got everybody muted. So, as a real estate investor and working with people that invest, you always get the question like, what are some ways that I can invest and get started in real estate? Rental properties. Rental properties is a surefire way to get started. It's nothing brand new up under the sun. It's just people try, and myself, we teach you how to be more creative with getting these investments and not having to put a whole lot of money down. Fix and flips are really good, especially if you want to go in and earn a lot of cash on average, depending on what city and state. But like here, Texas, Louisiana, or so, you can average between 50 to $80,000 a flip, depending on how you get in. Now, we got some crazy stuff going on with our interest rates right now, but flips are always a good way to get a lot of money. Short-term rentals are the hot thing. I recently attended an Airbnb luncheon where, we had the World Cup coming here, and Airbnb is partnering with a lot of people to host your homes or your rental properties and things. And Airbnbs or short-term rentals are a good way to make money, to get in the game, to get started on average with an Airbnb. And what we've noticed, you can bring in 3 to 4 times your rent if you do it right. Wholesaling, I've been wholesaling for a couple of years now, a little bit over a couple. And wholesaling is a good, surefire way to get started. If you don't have the capital, but a little bit of money with advertising and marketing and understanding real estate investing, wholesaling is a good niche for you also. Land investing is really good too. You get land and hold on to it. You can actually build on it, sell it to developers, get it platted. It's so many different things that you can do. And these are the things that I teach my students too. Here's just a couple. I just showed some pictures because I always say you got to show receipts in real estate investing. You have a lot of people going around saying that I do this and I do that, but can they really show you the receipts? Here's some receipts here for me. This is a property that I have in Shreveport. At the bottom is how it looked. At the top is I actually turned around and kept this as a rental. I didn't flip this. Rent potential is really good, so I kept this as a rental. And in addition, I also had some students who wanted to learn how to the construction side, how to manage contractors, how to do the rehab side of a property, and I bought them in. They were my personal students that took my course, and I bought them in to do this particular project here. This is another property here that I actually bought from a wholesaler. Do y'all know that the wholesaler made about $30,000 off of me on this project? They worked their magic, found an out-of-state investor who was not, that's how the property looked at the bottom. And that's when we were actually prepping, putting the plastic on the windows. But this is how the property looked. And the wholesaler and I are friends, and they wholesaled it to me. They made 30, when I found out they made $30,000. So I'm saying if you get in the game of wholesaling, you can make some money. And when I fixed it up, the equity shot up. I had close to $80,000 worth of equity in this property, and it's an actual duplex. That's the front door. You got one side to the right, other side to the left. So why real estate investing? My why, as you see, is my beautiful family. I focus on real estate investing so I can build generational wealth, multiple streams of income, and have financial control over myself. And when I say having financial control over myself, meaning being able to go where I want to go, do what I need to do, and don't necessarily have to respond or report to anybody when it comes to vacation. So drop in the chat, what's your why? Y'all dropping in the chat? A little technical difficulty. So drop in your chat, what's your why? And let's see what some people put in here. Becoming my own boss. Yes. Building legacy for my children. Absolutely. Building a legacy for my children and my grandchildren. Mostly freedom and retirement. Absolutely. Those are some really good ones. Okay, so why this conversation matters. And I tell everybody, when you're investing in real estate, so many people want to get into real estate and they just want to just jump into it. And I'm like, you really have to educate yourself. You really have to understand about investors, understanding the importance of it, understanding title company, understanding cash flow, money. There's so many different components, but today we're going to talk about understanding title companies. People are getting scammed and people are not running their business like a business. So investors do not understand the importance of title companies, so they miss out. They miss out on either being successful with a close as a wholesaler. I know that Taisha and I talked about this earlier on Facebook Live, is that you can have a title company to either make or break you. I've had a title company not follow through when I was doing a wholesale deal, and I lost about, I think, twenty to $30,000 on that deal. I was pissed because the title company did not come through. So going through searching and finding a really good title company who understands what you're doing as an investor is very, very important. And not going to these, as we mentioned, kitchen closings, doing things outside of the box that are not within the guidelines and the rules and law when it comes to real estate and real estate investing. And when you become a real estate investor, I tell everybody, you have to run your business like a business, and understanding title companies, having that relationship, making those connections, that's running your business like a business. So the truth, Not every deal is a good deal. Mistakes cost money. As I mentioned, the title company made some mistakes, didn't follow through. It cost me. I didn't have the money in my pocket, but I was looking forward to that money as a real estate investor. And the legal risks are there. If you are not going through a title company when you are closing your property, you are setting yourself up for extreme failure and potential lawsuits and other stuff. But I'm not going to get deep into that because Taisha's here to talk about all that stuff for us. So, kitchen closings. What do we mean by kitchen closings? These are deals, cash deals without protection. You're going to go sign a piece of paper when you have not ran a check. As mentioned before, when you hire people or you go to a job and somebody hire you, what do? They run a background check on you. So going to the title company is similar to running a background check on a property. Going to see that making sure that this property checks out. There are no major tax liens. There's no other issues, no cloud on the title. You want to make sure that you have a clear title whenever you are preparing to close or taking on a property. No title company, no protection, period. That's kitchen closings. It's like, hey, I'm just going to go to Starbucks, meet somebody at the library, or they told me to go by their house and they had the paperwork and we could sit at their table and do this. No, no, no. That is not what we're doing. Handshake agreements. People be like, well, hey, this person, shook my hand and decided that, hey, we should be able to do this. So, no, that is not what we're doing. Just because y'all shook hands, shaking hands is a good understanding, but it does not seal the deal. So no kitchen closings. I can't stress this. And I know when I first started in real estate investing in the early 2000s, this was the thing. People always was like, don't do no kitchen closings. People try to get you, and they will. Red flags that you should see whenever you're going through this particular process of closing. Cash only deals are not bad, but when we say cash only in real estate and real estate investing, it's not that you're going to have a duffel bag or a briefcase full of cash and you're going to go meet somebody somewhere. No, cash meaning that you're paying for the full price upfront without any financing. And you can either wire the money, or if you have a cashier's check or something when you come in, but you're going through your bank and taking care of this. You're not pulling your mattress up and shoving all your money in your bag and then going to meet somebody. That's not what we're doing. So that's some big red flags. And then when people are really pressuring you to move fast, when people are like, well, hey, you don't have to worry about this title company, or I can do this, I can do that. You don't have to worry about this. I got you. I got you, sis. I got you, bro. Yeah, you always hear that. And no, they do not. Who has you is your attorney that works at the title company whenever you are preparing to close. So, real story. I posted this on social media, and if you follow me, you heard it, but I'm going to give y'all a real quick example of this story. So, I had someone call me. I mentioned I am a wholesaler and I have signs up and I advertise, do my marketing and everything. So, I buy houses. People call me with some very strange stories. This one here, a guy called me and was like, hey, I want a house. I say dice game. He was like in a crap game. We were shooting in somebody's garage. He lost and he signed his house over to me. He signed the deed over to me. I was like, okay. And he was like, and I want to sell the house. Can you buy it from me for $10,000? I sure can. That's right up my alley, those type of prices. But I have to do my due diligence and ask the right questions and stuff to make sure that this is legit. So the guy was like, telling me that the house has a tenant in it. The guy had owned it. It was his rental property. He had a tenant in it. The tenant pays whatever, whatever. I guess the guy told him this after the game, and the property is his. So now he doesn't want it. He was like, hey, I just want cash. So if you can't get 10, just give me $5,000 and we can make this deal happen. Still sounding good to me. But as a real estate investor, you have to do your due diligence regardless of how cheap a property is. Somebody might be like $5,000. I blow that away in Vegas on a weekend or whatever. Not your girl. So my thing is, I want to find out what's on this title with this particular property. If it's clear, We got a deal. If it's not, then I need to protect myself and not move forward with this particular deal. So the guy was still asking me that. I called my attorney at the title company and I mentioned to him, I was like, hey, I have this property. I know the situation sounds crazy. And I told him, and he was like, no more crazier than anything else that I that I've heard before. But he was like, Verna, if you get the guy to come to my office, bring that deed, let me check everything out. And if it's clear, then you can buy it. Nope, no problem. Told the guy that. He got mad. He kept pressuring me. He was like, I don't understand why we just can't meet and get this over with and you could just bring the money to me. If you need to give me a money order, whatever. He was just talking fast and everything. A hustler. Maybe, and that's how they do with their games and stuff. But I'm like, you can't run game on me when it comes to real estate investing. I've been doing this for over 20 something years, and I definitely need to check and make sure that the title on this property is clear. If it's free and clear, then we're good. He got mad. He started cussing on the phone, trying to cuss me out and everything. Told me I'm not a good investor and he's going to take his deal somewhere else. And he hung up. Never heard from him again. Now, did I get the opportunity to check everything out? No. But my thing is, I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose anything by doing my due diligence and making sure that I protect myself in this particular situation. And that's the same thing I tell everybody else. You have to protect yourself. Another real story that I have. I can't make this up, y'all. Y'all, you will be shocked at all the stories that I have over the 20 some years with me investing, dealing with people. People, we're funny. But adjudicated properties, some people know what they are or not. That's when people basically, with this situation, I'm not going to go through the full detail, but a lady bought a property through adjudication and someone defaulted on their taxes. So she went and put the money down to purchase the property. She said she purchased it for like around 500 and something dollars. And like some Louisiana, like in Shreveport, Monroe, you could go to some other small towns. Even here in Texas, when you go outside of Dallas and you get things in adjudication, you can find some stuff really, really cheap. But you still need to do your due diligence to make sure that it's not just like a circle of dirt on a corner lot or something, but you still have to do your due diligence. And this woman told me, she said that she has this house for sale. She's selling it for $5,000. She got it for 500 or whatever. So she's doing her investment. That's fine. She hasn't even had the redemption period for the property is not up. In the state of Louisiana, it's 3 years, and she was in Louisiana. Redemption period is not up. There's a cloud on the title, and this woman is still trying to sell the property. The issue, somebody might be like, well, it's $5,000. It really doesn't matter. The issue is she can sell it to you. You go in, start doing some work and everything. The redemption period isn't up. Somebody, long lost cousin or whoever who might have an interest in this property, they done found him in the desert. He done came and was like, okay, I'm ready to move back into my grandmother's property because I own half of it. And now it's a mess. It's a hot mess. They got to clear it up. You didn't put money into it. The lady who had it from the adjudication property sale, she basically was not supposed to sell the property. And they give you all this information whenever you go and put your money down on a property that she cannot sell it to anyone because it's in a redemption period. It just gets so convoluted that you're just like, ugh. And then you hear people say, I hate investing in real estate. Real estate is not for me. My friend got burnt on it, but people are not following the proper rules and procedures that are set in place when it comes to real estate investing. And people are not understanding the importance of having a title company. Do y'all follow? If y'all follow, put follow a hand clap or whatever. Give me something so I can make sure y'all still there following me on these stories. Anything y'all follow? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay. Yep. Okay, okay. Okay. So risk, as I mentioned, there are a lot of risk when you do not go through a title company. When you have these kitchen closings, you have liens, fraud, unknown heirs. I have purchased in the last year three properties that were going through like air issues. And even though it's like 8 kids over here, 9 kids over here, and once you get people all to agree to sell, that's fine. But then I have another situation when one property somebody was trying to sell, and I'm being clear, Papa was a Rolling Stone back in the day. They didn't know that he had another baby by Sally Mae up the street. And that baby got interest in this property. So if you do not go through a title company, you will be faced with issues like this. You think you got a property that they sold to you, and now here comes Sally Mae baby saying, "No, that's my daddy too, and that's my property." And so then you have to go through all these other issues to get everything worked out. Back taxes is another thing. I had a guy from New Orleans. Like I said, I got stories. I was going to buy an apartment building from him. It was a 17-unit apartment building. He was talking fast and everything else with that, that New Orleans, people on here from New Orleans, I ain't trying to hate, but that New Orleans accent, trying to talk fast and tell me about this property. I went and checked it out and everything. It needed a lot of work. So I started asking like questions. He was not upfront about anything, but do you know that this guy had $50,000? Not 50, not 500, $50,000 in mowing liens from the city. And he trying to sell me this property for a certain amount. And I was like, no, because once I buy that property, if he does not agree to take care of that $50,000 mowing lien, y'all know who it's going to fall on? It's going to fall on me. No, sir, and no, ma'am. So I went back and negotiated, trying to negotiate those things because there's a way you can negotiate and get those liens taken off. But you gotta show favor. You gotta go down there. You gotta talk to people and stuff. But sometimes it's hard. And if you do not do your due diligence and check this stuff out, you will have a major, major, major problem. So liens, fraud, unknown heirs, back taxes, all of that. So I'm going to step back and I'm going to let the fabulous Taisha Lewis. Oh, I do need to say one thing. I know Taisha's going to go through her bio, and even last webinar I had Anita on there. Y'all know they AKAs, but I still had to let them know that I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Okay. So I'm going to mute and let you take it over and educate our people about the importance of title companies.
Absolutely. Do I have the ability to run the slides?
I don't think I shared, but if you want, you could just tell me to go and I'll change them.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, I think you can actually go to the next one. So as she's doing that, I am Area Vice President at Key Title Group. Oh, it looks like this slide may not have been updated, but that's okay. I can still give you my info. And so my office sits in the Arlington area, but of course we have offices all over the Metroplex.
I am so sorry. How did my information get on there?
That's
I think
okay.
I copied it from you. Okay, but anyway, girl, give your step and I will be updating this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So we do have locations all over the Metroplex. We've got 6 in the DFW area, but our team is licensed to handle transactions anywhere that close in the state of Texas. I know some of you are in Louisiana, in some other states, but the information that we're talking about today is going to be good for investors regardless of what state you are in, although you do want to be familiar with the laws, the real estate laws in the state where you live. So what I wanted to share about myself, just a few, just kind of get to know me. So I already put in the chat that I'm from New York. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. I've lived in New York. I've lived in Colorado. My undergrad degree is from Colorado State University. And I lived in Houston, and then now subsequently I do live in Dallas. I have been in the title industry for about 12 years. So prior to that, I spent 10 years in hospitality management. And so a lot of what I do is really based around the client experience. And so that includes the communications that I have not only with investors when they're doing real estate transactions, but then those that you're doing the real estate transactions with. You're going to be talking to a lot of Sometimes, just like Verna mentioned, you'll have a lot of heirs and maybe they've dealt with, the death of a loved one, or maybe you're dealing with divorce situations, or just people that are in distress and are unable to continue the payments in their homes, or just whatever your investment strategy is. So we want to make sure that we are handling those people with care. And I find that my hospitality management background comes in very handy when we're dealing with people like those that Verna deal with that want to get upset because she's not wanting to take this home over from a dice game. Okay. So I'm really passionate about that. I'm passionate too about educating our community. I was really happy to hear that you had Anita on. I'm so sorry I missed that one, but I'm really big on just educating about estate planning because as we go through this today, you'll understand how estate planning is so important to a real estate transaction and things that we run into because a lot of people in our community, unfortunately, have not done that type of estate planning. And that's how we're done. That's how we're stuck dealing with, like Verna said, Papa was a Rolling Stone. We've got 9 heirs on this side and 8 heirs on this side, and we're trying to make the transaction work. I too am an investor, although on a very small scale, nothing at all like what Verna does, but I do own an Airbnb. I also own a rental property in Indiana. So we have tenants that are in there, and the Airbnb is here locally in the DFW area. So I understand what you all deal with, again, on a smaller scale. However, the vast majority of the knowledge that I do have with what you all deal with comes from my dealings professionally with my clients that are investors. So I too have seen you just can't even believe when she says you can't believe the stories, you really cannot believe these stories. Like it is, it's out of control, the things that we run into, but there is a right way to do it. There's a way to make money and there's a way to protect yourself while you do it. So I love that Verna puts this on to teach you guys how to do that. And I too am a wife and I'm a mother of 3. We have a 20-year-old son. He's a junior at UNT. I have an 18-year-old daughter. She's a freshman at SFA. And then we have an 8-year-old son. So yes, we were those crazy parents that started all over again. So let's just jump right into it. I'll go to the next slide and we'll start by talking about exactly what is a title company. You guys will notice throughout this entire time, some of this knowledge is going to be basic for those of you that have been doing investments for some time, but what we're going to do is try to cover different knowledge levels, let me say that. So those that are super new and then those that have done a few transactions, and then we're going to blend the two so everyone should be able to leave here with some sort of value. So I'm going to start super basic with what is a title company. The majority of you probably think about a title company as the place where you go sign your closing documents. That's the majority of the time when people think of what we do, that's what they think. What you don't realize sometimes is that is a very small piece of what we do. Very, very small piece. The majority of what we do is behind the scenes. It's work that you want us to do. And after today, you're going to understand why. The title company is often where the settlement agents are, where we work, where we collect and disperse funds on a transaction. So of course, if you're dealing with a contract, or even if you're dealing with your own contract as an investor, you're likely going to have earnest money as a component of that contract. You're likely going to have option money as a component of that. And so the title company is where you're going to deliver those funds. Likewise, Verna talked about when it's time for closing and you need to either send your wire or bring a cashier check, the title company is the place where you're going to do that. And then after closing, we are also the ones that disperse the funds. So proceeds that go to the seller, commission that go to the realtor, so on and so forth. We're also the people that record the conveyance documents after closing. So after everyone signed those documents and after the money has been dispersed, there's still more work to do. So we still have to make sure everything aligns with the county clerk's office, whether it's the warranty deed. Let's say that you've taken a lien out, that needs to be recorded by form of a deed of trust. Any other documents, releases for the previous mortgage, if there's an affidavit of heirship where we have to take care of listing exactly who the heirs are legally, things of that nature. Anything to be recorded, we're going to do that as well. And so now we get into the real bulk of what we do. We issue title insurance. And so a lot of people, even people that are veterans in the game, don't truly understand what title insurance is, but you will after we get done talking today. So We're going to go to the next slide to talk about exactly what title insurance is. So title insurance is very different than any other type of insurance. When I teach, I tell people, think about auto insurance, think about homeowners insurance. So for instance, with your auto insurance, you're really grateful that you have auto insurance when what happens? A collision, right? Some sort of car accident. At that point, you're like, thank goodness I've been paying for this insurance for all these years because now I really need it. Title insurance is not like that. It's actually kind of the other way around. A lot of the work that we do with title insurance is before you even go to place a claim, because we're doing everything on the front end to mitigate or to lower the chances that a claim will result. And that's really how it protects you is once there's something that results in a claim, then you can rely upon your title insurance to cover you for whatever that claim is. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that does for you in terms of peace of mind. It really does provide you with peace of mind because whenever you purchase a home, you have absolutely no idea what the history of this home is, even if it's land that you're purchasing. Sometimes people say, oh, I don't need title insurance, it's just land. Okay, but what's the history of that land? Who owned that land? How do you know that the person that's selling the land to you is actually the rightful legal owner of that property? How do you know that there weren't any liens? Just like Verna mentioned, labor liens. A lot of times mowing liens and things like that, we notice are really high when you're dealing with land. So how do you know all of that? You don't. And when you go through a title company and you get title insurance, you now can rely upon the work that the title company has done so that if anything does arise after you close, you can then place a claim on your title insurance and protect the investment. We're talking about investors, right? All of you are investors or you're thinking about being investors. Everything that you do should be with the mind frame of either making money or protecting the money that you do have. You want to either grow your money or you want to protect the money you have. You don't want to do anything that is so risky that the money that you've made or the money that you have is in jeopardy. Title insurance helps to protect that. And as we go on, we'll talk about some examples about how that does that. Is it necessary? So oddly enough, title insurance is not mandatory. It is not mandatory in the state of Texas. It is an optional thing, whether you want it or you do not want it, it is an optional thing. However, you'll notice if you're dealing with any traditional financial institutions, they will not give you the money if they have not gotten a title insurance policy or title insurance on the loan as well, on the transaction, right? So they'll say to you, yes, we'll loan you this money. Let's say you want to take out $200,000 for a project or to purchase a home. They'll say, yeah, we'll loan you this money. However, we're going to require that we have a title insurance policy on what we're loaning to you. That in itself lets you know how important the policy is. Because if it was not necessary or if it was not important, that bank would gladly give you that money without having to incur any additional expenses in order to do so. Granted, you as a buyer pay for it, but they understand how important it is to have a policy. Likewise, you should have one as well. Why should buyers and sellers want a policy? So just like I mentioned before with the peace of mind, the reason that buyers should want a title policy is because, again, you don't know what the history is. And let me just give you an example when I say that. I'm big on examples, so I love when Verna gives her stories of what she's run into because I'm big on that. I think it really helps to kind of put it in perspective. So let's say, for instance, you purchase an investment home. We closed today. Today's March 18th. 2 months from now, so that would make it what, May 18th, you get a knock on the door. Let's say you're working on it, you're updating, you're rehabbing, whatever you do, you get a knock on the door and it's a roofer and he says, hey, a year ago, I put the roof on this home and I was never paid. Okay. I placed a lien on the property to be paid for the roof on the home. The seller that sold it to you never paid me for it. However, now that you are the owner of the property, the lien is on this home and I am expecting repayment from you for the debt that was not paid to me. And honestly, rightfully so, and legally, that person is able to pursue you now as the owner of the home for that debt that was not paid to them. What's also important is, let's say that you decide, you know what, nah, that's not important. I'm not going to pay this person. When you turn around to sell that property, because that lien is on it, your title is not clear. So no title company is going to close that transaction with that outstanding lien on it without it either being paid or released in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So if you were to have purchased a title policy at the time that you purchased the home, and that lien holder comes back, that roofer comes back and says, hey, I have this lien on the property and I'm expecting payment from you. You now have the protection of a title policy to now contact your title company and place a claim on your title insurance, because now you're due to suffer a financial loss due to an error, an oversight, or what have you, because that lien wasn't paid. So it kind of puts it in perspective how that protects you. That's a really small example, but just think about if it got even bigger than that. Let's say that there was an heir that did not sign a conveyance document, or an heir that was not paid for their interest in the property. And now you own the property, and now they're coming after you saying, hey, you don't own 100% of this property, because I have a third interest in the property and I was never paid, nor did I ever convey my interest. Now, what does that do to your ownership? And what did we say earlier? Protect your money. What does that do to your money now that you may potentially have to pay that individual out who was not paid out before, right? So that kind of puts it in perspective why a title policy is so important. Things that arise, you want to be able to fall back on something or someone, and the title insurance policy will do that for you. How much is it? So title insurance is based on the sales price of the property. It's also based on how much you want to be insured. So if the sales price of the property is $200,000 and you want to be insured for a little bit more, you actually could get a policy for a little bit more than the $200,000. You just have to pay for it. So the higher the sales price is, the more expensive the title policy is. It's not a certain percentage that I can give you. It's actually a formula. But just know that it does correlate directly with the sales price. However, the good news is that it lasts as long as you're the owner. So if you're the type of investor that wants to buy and hold, your properties you're buying and you're holding, you're having tenants in them or what have you, you pay for the title policy one time, which would be at the time of closing, and then it lasts for as long as you are the owner of the property. So if you're still the owner 20 years from now and you have a claim that arises, you can absolutely place that claim on your title insurance as long as you're the owner of the property. There are some other states that pay more than once for their title policy. In the state of Texas, you make that one-time payment and you don't have to make any other payments, and that policy is still good. It is still valid for you. We're going to move on to the next slide. So one thing that I think is very important for you all to know that a lot of people do not know, but you're going to know because you're going to be a pro at the end of this, is not only are we searching the title work for the property that you're purchasing. So not only are we looking for liens, not only are we looking for, like we talked about labor liens, we talked about, the roofer and all of that. Not only are we searching that when we're looking at title work, but we are also searching the owner, the seller. A lot of people don't realize that. So when you do a kitchen closing and you do not go through a title company, you may not realize that the person that's selling that property to you might have an IRS tax lien. They may have child support liens. They may have things within their divorce decree that were not satisfied. You may not know that because you may be only researching the property and trying to find mowing liens, mortgages, things of that nature. However, if you do a kitchen close and you purchase a property where, let's say, the seller has an IRS tax lien or an abstract of judgment, and then you turn around and you try to sell that property, a title company is not only going to search you and the property, they're going to go back to the previous owner as well. And when they see that there's an IRS tax lien that's outstanding or an abstract of judgment that's outstanding, that title is not clear. We have had situations where investors have had to pay debt for previous owners because there were kitchen closings that were done and there were things that were not done properly in those closings. So in order for them to be able to close, recoup their money, do what? Protect their money. they had to go back and take care of clouds that happened before they even owned the property. No investor has budgeted for that. None, not one. You do not budget your project and say to yourself, let's put $30,000 aside just in case the previous owners did something incorrectly. You just don't. So again, make sure you're doing good business and protecting your money by going through a title company who is able to search the owner or owners, if there's multiple, and who is able to search the property to let you know. So how does this work? What happens? So when you execute your contract, on your contract, you're going to indicate who the title company is that you would like to close the transaction. In that same contract, I mentioned earlier, it will list earnest money and option money. That again will come to the title company. And then we start the title search. Our little worker bees are in the background and they're searching all the county records. They're searching anything that they can find on the property. And don't forget also the sellers. Okay, we're searching those sellers. They include heirs as well. So if for some reason the owner is deceased, and they have heirs, we're searching those heirs. So if those heirs have child support liens they haven't paid and things of that nature, those are things that are going to have to be paid as well in order for title to be clear. Once our little worker bees are done searching everything, they put together a title report or what's called a title commitment. That is the title company committing to issuing a title policy on this property or for this transaction, given a few things happen in that title commitment. That title commitment is very important to you as an investor. It is going to give you an indication of how much work needs to be done for you to get to the closing table and get your money. When you get that title commitment, it could have nothing on it. Title could be clear. It could have nothing on it. And you know, when you see that, great. If we want to close early, we can close early. We can kind of speed things along, or we can talk to both parties and see if this is something we can get done quickly. Or if you look at it and you see pages and pages of title requirements, things that we're saying have to be done or satisfied in order for title to be clear, that gives you an indication of, okay, look, this transaction may not be closing fast. If we wanted it to close in the next few days, it likely will not because it's going to take a lot of work to clear these requirements. Depending on the type of investor that you are, it may also help for you to get in touch with your title company and say, hey, I noticed that we have all of these requirements. How can I help? Do you need something from me? Because sometimes you have the relationship with the person that you're purchasing the property from. Sometimes they trust you more than they trust us. So we may call them and let them know, hey, we need, social security numbers, or we need this, or we need that. They may be a little bit leery, but depending on the relationship they have with you, sometimes we may ask for you to be a liaison to help us to get that information or releases. We've had investors go down to the city. Verna, I'm sure you've probably had to do all of that. Go down to the city, get releases, track down payoffs, the whole nine, just to help us clear title in a timely fashion. So we get all these requirements satisfied. Once all of those requirements are satisfied, we're clear to close. We are ready to close, and the buyer, you can obtain the property with peace of mind, and you just know that everything has been cleared and that your title is clear. One thing I do like to cover with investors is the difference between the closing and the funding process. That is extremely important. And it's going to be important when you are talking to your potential sellers as well. It is important for them to know. So perfect example, I actually had this happen. I had a transaction. We had like 12 heirs on the transaction. It was grandma passed away. And of course, not only did grandma pass away, but then grandma had children. Then some of those children passed away. And so in those situations, we continue to trickle all the way down until we land on actual living individuals. So let's say that grandma had 5 children and one of the children passed. Then we have to find who were the heirs of that deceased child. And so now it includes the 4 living children, but then whoever are the children of the deceased child, right? So we keep going until we land on all living people. In this particular situation, we had 12. They lived all over the country. We had people in California. We had people in Florida. We had actually one person deployed in Japan. We had people all over the place. So, which is okay. We can do a transaction like that. It can be done. There's a lot of moving parts, but it can be done. Now, this was the issue. Because we had so many people in all of those places, and some of those people had actually never previously done a real estate transaction before, they did not completely understand that once they signed the document, they would not simultaneously be receiving a check for their signature. So in their mind, I'm not signing until you are giving me a check for my signature. And that's not the way that it works. They don't immediately get their funds that way. And sometimes that's why it's appealing for people to do kitchen closings because they feel like, hey, I can get that money right now, right away. No. So when you close at a title company, closing is actually signing the documents, okay? Funding is a whole different situation. So let's just assume it's a cash transaction and the seller signed the closing documents. We still need the buyers to sign if they haven't signed already, and we need their funds. Sometimes we haven't received the wire yet, or they've initiated the wire, it hasn't hit our account, they brought a cashier's check, whatever the case. Once we have that, then we can issue proceeds. Now, it gets slightly more complicated when there's a lender involved. So if you have anyone else that's providing the funding for the transaction, so it doesn't matter who. If it's a traditional bank, if it's a hard money lender, if it's a friend, if it's a crowdfunding situation, it doesn't matter who it is. If anyone else is providing those funds, a lot of times we also have to wait until they give what we call funding approval in order for us to be able to disperse the funds. So let's say that you're working with a traditional bank. They're going to want us to scan and email all of the signed documents back to them. They look through them, make sure everything's been signed okay, and then they'll email us and say you are approved to fund. That's our permission to disperse funds. You could close on this day. What's today? Wednesday? And you could not fund till Monday. Now that's abnormal. That's not the norm. But in the situation I'm giving you with the 12 heirs, think about we had one in Japan, we had some in California, we had some in Florida, we had some here locally. So not only did all of these parties have to sign their documents with their mobile notaries that we ordered, but then the documents had to be overnighted back to us in Texas in order for us to fund. And guess what? Japan took forever. So originally Japan, they told us they would be able to get it to us. I can't remember, it was like 2 or 3 days. So we had that person sign early. Then there were weather issues, the FedEx didn't come in, all kind of things. So the family signed 1 week and we actually didn't get to fund until the following week. All of those heirs were blowing us up every day. Where's my money? You have my money. Why aren't you giving me? It's easy. Just give me my money. And we're trying to explain to them the difference between closing and funding. But of course, at that point, having not ever been through a transaction, likely not understanding the difference between closing and funding, it was very difficult to get them to understand. They believe that once they sign, they should immediately receive the money. So now you know you are a pro, you know that closing and funding are two different things. Oftentimes they happen on the same day. I would say the majority of my transactions, closing and funding happens on the same day. So I don't want you to think the following week is normal. So, but either same day or maybe the following day, but usually it doesn't take several days to be able to fund. Recording. Now, after everyone is done signing, we now have to record those documents with the county to make it official, to make it legal, the conveyance going from the seller to the buyer. And then after that is when we issue the title policy to you. So that is the lifespan of from contract to close when you're dealing with a title company. We're going to go to the next slide, and the next slide is going to talk about the scary stuff. So some of the things that we run into, some of the reasons why it's extremely important to deal with the title company. Listen, you guys, I don't say this to you only because I'm in the industry. Trust me. Like, yes, I see the scary things because I'm in the industry, but I say this to you again to help you protect your money. Seller impersonation is huge right now. When I tell you huge, it's been huge for years. It's really big right now. And I'm going to tell you why. AI. The scariest seller impersonation that I have ever seen, and not personally, but just in our industry, is a person who, this happened in Florida actually. It was a seller who was selling a home and they were doing we have what we call remote online notarization. where you can actually sign, kind of like we're doing right now, like on a Zoom setting. It's not actually Zoom, but video conferencing. And a person, AI, duplicated an elderly woman. I don't know if you guys, it was on the news, so I don't even know if you guys saw this, but it was scary. And so the elderly woman was on a conference, video conference with the escrow team, and she was doing this. She was nodding. The escrow team's talking to her. She's as if she understands everything that they're saying. They ask her a question. Her response seems a little off, like it doesn't completely address the question that's being asked, but it's just she's doing this. It looks just like the woman. Y'all, it was AI. It wasn't even a real person. I wish I had the clip to show you. Go Google it. Insane. And so it was only based on some of the responses that she was giving the escrow team that the escrow officer was kind of like, something seems a little off, right? But that's one example. A lot of what we're seeing is Verna talked earlier about one investment strategy is holding land. Land is a great way to make money. If you purchase the land, you hold the land until the value goes up or until you're able to find someone that wants to build on it. Perhaps you want to build on it yourself, whatever the case is. Well, what's happening now is there are a lot of people who scour the records just to find if there are any vacant land, any land that's been sitting for quite some time. They'll look up and find out who the owner of that land is, and then they would impersonate that person. They'll call a realtor or they'll call an investor who advertises that they purchase these deals, and they'll pretend to be that person. They'll have the person's name, all of that. They may even fabricate a driver's license, and they'll sign a contract in that person's name, the whole nine. And really, it's easy to do with land. Why? Because likely that person is not checking the land. They're not checking all the time to see who owns it. So if I owned a piece of land, I'm not thinking this is being done. I don't know that a person has sold it. So a situation that happened in my office one time is same thing. It was land. They contacted a realtor who was new. They love contacting new realtors because new realtors are super excited to be able to list a deal. Super excited. Oh my God, I got my first deal. It's land. And so they put a for sale sign in the yard. They got a buyer. They entered a contract. They got all the way to closing. Okay. A lot of times these sellers act like they're extremely busy. They may say, oh, I'm a doctor. I don't have time to talk. Text me. They don't want to talk on the phone. They don't want to do the face-to-face thing because they're so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Please respect my time. Just text me. We can get this done. At closing, they often do not want to come into the office to close. They want us to send them a mobile notary. Okay. That mobile notary went out to sign the seller, and the seller provided an ID that matched the person's name that they were impersonating and everything. The only way that this transaction got caught before funding, because remember, closing and funding, two different things. It closed, it had not funded yet. The only way that it was caught is because someone happened to drive by that knew the owner and saw the for sale sign on the land and called the owner. The owner tracked it down to what title company it was at, happened to call the title company before funding. Remember, it closed, not funded, to let the title company know that this was their property and they absolutely were not selling it. That's the only way it was caught. And especially because they're now providing fake IDs and all of that. So the intention, what these sellers are trying to do is they're trying to take the money and run. They'll have that money wired to an account, and that account will be closed in 24 hours. They're going to reroute that money and they are gone. And there are several colleagues in the industry that talk about things that have happened to them where their company has lost, hundreds of thousands of dollars because they fell victim to this. They've wired the money over and the person is gone. And after that, they find out. So imagine dealing with that without having a title company involved. Imagine you had a seller impersonation and you closed the transaction. You did a kitchen closing, no title company involved. And now you're dealing with this on your own. You've lost your money. You don't have the property. And now you're in a lawsuit because the real owner is suing you for doing this transaction, right? So Imagine how much better it is if you had a title policy to fall back on, a title company to fall back on that has attorneys, that have underwriters, that have the wherewithal to fight this with you to be able to get it done the right way. Okay. Unknown liens. We talked about unknown liens, abstracts of judgments. It is widely known in the state of Texas that abstract of judgments cannot attach to your primary residence. However, we are investors. So what that means is we're dealing with a lot of people who it may not be their primary residence. And so that an abstract of judgment may affect your transaction. And for those of you that may not know what an abstract of judgment is, it's when a creditor has made it known of public record that there's a certain amount of money that is due to them. So just to make it plain, let's say I have a Discover card, I run the Discover card up, I don't pay it. Discover might say, okay, great. This is how we're going to get our money. We're going to file an abstract of judgment. So if you have any assets and you're due to receive any money, we've let the public know. We've made public notice to let them know we are due first. Collect money and we need it. Okay. IRS is perfect for that. They will put that IRS lien out there because you already know the government's not going to allow a seller to walk away with hundreds of thousands of dollars proceeds and they have not gotten what is due to them. So family disputes, we have a lot of situations as well where we have family who just for some reason they want to cut out the black sheep of the family, or there's just a certain person in the family that we all just really don't deal with. They like to try to tell us, hey, yeah, mom had 5 kids and so we're all the heirs, but there's that 6th kid kind of hanging out there, or there's that 6th kid that's in prison and they feel like we don't want to have to deal with that. Just because a person is in prison or just because they're on drugs or just because they're homeless does not mean that they do not have an interest in the home. And a lot of times people will call me and say that, well, they're on drugs. I understand. They still have an interest in the property. Well, they've been in prison. They're not getting out. I understand that as well. You cannot just rob a person of their interest in the property. There's always documentation that has to be done in order for a person to convey their interest. You can't just take it from them that way. Okay. So these are all things that you want to work with a title company for a title company to catch. And these examples I'm giving you guys are like, when I tell you real life examples, I've dealt with people who are in prison, and family members are always trying to take their interests. They're in prison, they don't need it. What? According to the law, they do actually still have an interest, right? The big thing for us as investors, big thing, is when you are dealing with a transaction that has had a past kitchen closing. So if you're dealing with a transaction that was ever not handled properly prior to you getting it, you could be stuck with that. And what I mean by that is you could be stuck with having to pay what was not taken care of in the past. We have had investors that have had to pay just recently. This file came through my office. It was a foreclosure. A lot of people believe that if you have a foreclosure, it wipes away everything from before the foreclosure. That is not true, you guys. It is not true. Okay. So there are some things that are wiped away, but everything is not wiped away. And so this particular transaction, there was a mortgage that wasn't paid. The mortgage company foreclosed, and now the home was being sold. An investor purchased the foreclosed property, and now he was selling it. He did some rehab work. He did some things. He was ready to recoup his money. He was now selling it. Now, at the time that he's selling it, of course, title work's being run. We run title work. Guess what? There are solar panels on the home. Guess what? There's a lien on the home. $50,000 for these solar panels. Now, you could imagine if the person wasn't paying their mortgage, they weren't paying for the solar panels either. Now, our investor knew there were solar panels on the home. He knew, you can see them on there. But he believed that the foreclosure took care of the solar panel lien, and it did not. In order for him to sell the home, he had to pay $50,000 to that solar panel lien for that to be released. What are the chances, do you think, that he actually budgeted for that? None at all. He had absolutely no idea that that lien even existed. Okay. So don't think that just because you have the opportunity to get a good deal, hey, it's a good deal, I'm going to save, I'm going to make this amount of money on it, da, da, da. Don't forget that there are other things that you need to consider that could potentially affect your margins. Not only is it, everyone that does a rehab job knows hey, we may knock into this wall and we may find something just insane in this wall that's going to add to our budget. But you don't want to also have to think, and we did not consider title work, and there may be something in title work behind the title wall that's also going to dip into our budget, right? So those are some of the scary things that we run into. I think that it is extremely important for people to know that you have the backing of a title company. Now, trust me, title companies are neutral third parties. So we're not here to serve either the seller or the buyer. We are a neutral third party. We just do the right thing in the transaction, whatever the contract tells us to do and whatever we need to do in order to clear title. So we're not going to represent you. However, when you are dealing with a title company, we are going to make sure that things are done above board, they're legal, and that we're going to reduce the chances that it's going to come back to bite you in the butt, so to speak, right? So we'll go to the next slide, and it's along the same lines, talking about protecting yourself. How do you protect yourself? We talked about all the scary things. Okay, what do you need to do to prevent this from happening and to protect your money? You want to make sure you're always using a title company, even with family transactions. Oh, I cannot tell you how many people say, this family's been in our home for decades. I know there's nothing on title. You do not know that there's nothing on title. You do not know, that Lil Ray Ray has a child support lien that he didn't tell anybody about. You don't know that, Sister Shirley didn't tell people that she was struggling with the IRS and she has an IRS tax lien. You do not know what may or may not arise. As much as you know your family, we all know that there are some family secrets. So some of those family secrets may also result in heirs popping up as well. You don't know. So always go through a title company. I like to tell people trust but verify. I don't like to communicate with people as if they're being malicious or if they have any nefarious intentions when they're communicating with me. So I'm going to trust what you say, but we're going to verify. Everything needs to have documentation. Everything needs to be documented. You cannot tell me, oh yeah, my grandmother passed this down to me, but there's absolutely no documentation to support that. We have to have documentation for everything. Find a title company that has a collaborative approach. There are some title companies, and we talked about this in the live, they're not all created equal. So you want to make sure that the title company you're working with, the escrow officer you're working with, they care and they're going to collaborate with you. It's not us versus them, it's we. We are all trying to get to the closing table. None of us are getting paid until we get to the closing table. Find a title company that cares to make it to the closing table just as much as you do. And I like to tell my investors, be creative because it is important to be creative. What we do requires some sort of creativity, but we don't want to be so creative that we run the risk of running into legal issues. Okay. That is also something. Sometimes investors could be so profit driven that at times you want to overlook things, or yeah, we know about that heir over there, but we're just not going to say anything, or we're not going to include this or include that. Don't do it, you guys, because it will come back. It will come back. It may not be immediately. It could be 5 years down the road. And what you don't want as a new investor is for your reputation to be that you're someone that does things shady. Because whenever people see your name on a contract, whenever they get a phone call from you and you want to do a transaction with them, they may say, oh no, that's Taisha. And I heard, no, she does that shoddy work, right? She does the kitchen closings. And I don't want to be associated with the kitchen closings, right? So you want to make sure that the things that you're doing are not chipping away from your credibility, but adding to it. And just a perfect example of this is I have a lot of investors that I work with that they know as soon as they see certain investors' names on a deal, they want to work with them. They're like, oh, I know they do good business. We're going to get to the closing table. They're going to do what needs to get to be done for us to get there and to get there legally. I know this is good business. Same thing with the title company. When we get contracts and we see certain people's names, we're like, yes, this is an investor that knows what they're doing. We know that we're gonna get it done, and we can trust what they say to us. We don't have to say, are they lying when they say that? Or, on the flip side, there are some companies, investment companies out here. There are some individuals out here. You see their name on the contract and you want to run. You do not want to be associated with it whatsoever. I will tell you there are investment companies and individuals in our industry as a title company. We talk too. Hey, have you gotten a contract before with XYZ company on that? Man, they are shady, aren't they? What did they? And we'll share stories. So you don't want to be that person. Don't be so focused on how much money you could potentially make that you jeopardize your integrity or your reputation or your credibility. Don't be that investor, okay? Um, Keep copies of your owner's title policy. I can't tell you how many times owner's title policies have saved transactions. So if you did a deal and we run title and something doesn't seem right in the title work, or it looks like something wasn't released or taken care of, the first thing we're going to ask you is, do you have a copy of your owner's title policy? If you don't have it, you can obtain a copy from the title company where you closed, but it's just so much faster when you're like, yeah, I have it, here it is. I mean, it's great because we can rely on that title policy sometimes to remove things that we see in title. Small example, it is, I don't want to say it's common practice, but it happens very often that if a mortgage company has been paid, that they don't necessarily file a release. Even though they've received the money, they may not necessarily file a release with the county to say, hey, this debt's been taken care of. So a lot of times when we pull title work, we may see an old mortgage on title work that appears like it needs to be paid in order for title to be clear. First thing we'll do is we'll come to you and we say, do you have a title policy? When you provide us with a copy of that title policy, we can rely on that to say that the previous title company, they took care of that mortgage. We can rely on that, provide that to our underwriters, remove the requirement and move forward. Just that easy. Okay. So keep a copy of your owner's title policy and remember that documentation is important. When I teach my classes, I tell people all the time, at the title company, when we run title and we look through those county records, it should make a nice story, as if we're reading a book. Oh, Grandma Ella Mae had this property, and then she had a will, and when she passed away, that was probated. And now, her daughter, Sheila, now inherited the property, and then Sheila decided to do a transaction where she conveyed the property over to. We don't want to see Grandma Ella Mae, and then now we see, Bob in title, and we're like, what happened? How did it go from Ella Mae to Bob? We call that a break in the chain of title. There's a break. There's an issue, and now we have to go find documentation to close this gap. Okay. That's not what we like to see. So documentation is important. When a family tells you, oh no, Grandma LMA left it to me, perfect. How? How did she do that? Is there a will? Was the will probated? Was there an affidavit of heirship that was done? How was it left to you? Not just that you're her favorite grandchild and now it's yours, or not that you've lived in the home since she passed, so you think you have the right to sell it. You're going to run into that a lot as an investor. Just keep in mind documentation. So make sure you're asking the questions to document exactly who's the owner and how they got their ownership. And if you don't have the wherewithal to do it or the resources to do it, tap into your title company. And that's why we're here. That's it, you guys. That's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions? It's a ton of information, I know. Does anyone have any questions on anything that I've said? I should have did like you and had people do their thumbs up.
Yeah, I want to make sure that y'all are still there. So now what? You see the risk. So let's get started. Let's get started. You know what the risks are and what the risks are involved. So now the plan is that you have to educate yourself as an investor to make sure that you do not get these risks and be calling myself or Taisha saying, hey, I got into a bind. Can y'all help me out? So the next question is, I think we might have something in the chat. Let me see. Let me see. Is it y'all saying that y'all here? So make sure nobody's asleep. Very good information. Okay, thank you. Yes, very good information. I got the best to be on today. So the next question is, how do you actually get started in real estate investing? So, I'm covering these in-depth topics, giving like community information, but it all circles back to how can you get started with real estate? What do you want to do? So,
Like, say,
what?
cause I got a question, right?
Go ahead.
For Miss Lewis. So, Miss Lewis, I got an issue with a house right now. It has a lien on it.
Let's do
Is
this.
it
Let's
okay?
say I think she was taking a little break right quick. Let's save it to the
Okay.
end. Hold it, and we're gonna save it to the
Okay.
end. We're gonna come
All
back.
right.
Yeah, go
All right.
I think she'll take a little water break because I know you talked for a minute.
Okay.
And we'll
I
save it.
got you.
So
All right.
what you'll learn the next step in real estate, and what you'll learn is in my workshop that I'm offering is how investors find profitable properties, the different ways real estate deals are funded, and how to know if a deal is a good investment. So we laid a lot of that stuff out on the table with the previous webinar and now, and the step-by-step roadmap to getting started, how to protect your investments. So, ready to get started in real estate investing? You've learned a lot of information today, but it all circles back to you wanting to be an investor and knowing how to get started. And part of me giving these webinars are leading up to my workshop that I'm having. I forgot to change the date on here. It says March 31st, but we're going to keep the Wednesday day flowing. It seems like Wednesday is good. We're going to do it on April the 1st. So when you scan it, it goes to April the 1st, and we're going to have it from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The cost is $49, and this is basically your tool. I'm teaching you how to get started. It's not the in-depth class, it's not the personal mentorship, but it's this workshop will get you on the right path to start thinking, do I want to be a flipper? Do I want to be a wholesaler? I know I have the money or the capital to get started. I know that I know some people, I have contractors and everything. I know that I've seen some properties that I want to invest in. What do I need to do to obtain them the right way? And how can I get my funding? And then what will be my next steps? And that's what I'm teaching in this workshop. April the 1st. It's the day after March 31st. It's April the 1st. We're going to keep the Wednesdays webinars and workshop flowing. Next Wednesday, I'm offering another workshop and it's free. And we're going to talk about loans, funding your real estate deal. I have another lady. She's a really good loan officer, broker. Her name is Zelma. She's going to be on the call next week. So we started last week talking about estate planning, how to protect your investment. Today, understanding title companies, no kitchen closings, understanding how you need to protect yourself. Those are like the last week and this week as you are a real estate investor. And then now we're going to move to how to fund your deal. You have those things, 3 things in place, and I'm going to teach you how to be an investor. Real estate investing one-on-one workshop, how to get started, the things that you need to know with real estate investing. So, the beginner's blueprint. For those that are on the webinar, I'm giving you a bonus, and I offer this to those that take my class, and my personal mentorship is a deal analysis check sheet. As we talked about in this webinar and the previous, you have to do your due diligence, and everybody can't go into investing thinking, well, one, you know everything when you have not been educated or have not taken a class. So you always have to have a checklist. I'm big on checklists. I have one when I walk the property, which I put right here on walkthrough checklist. I have to have that to make sure it meets my criteria as I walk through. How to analyze a deal, understanding what's your maximum allowable offer, understanding that you're not going to break the bank to get a property. You don't fall in love with properties. I'm teaching you all that type of stuff here. And the beginner investor roadmap. If this works for me and I have the funding, which direction do I need to go? Or what basically suits me as an individual and what I want to do when it comes to real estate investing. So we'll be laying all of that out in the workshop. Now, let's see. Questions, Q&A, and also when we finish with this webinar, I know I owe the people from the previous webinar, I'm going to link these on YouTube so you can still have access just in case we went through something pretty fast and you want to take a snapshot or get some information off the slides. I'm going to have this on YouTube where you can always go back and refer to it. Then I'll have my information, Taisha's information on here. Then I have Anita's information from the previous, just in case if you need to reach out to a title someone who works at a title company, or even the previous, someone who does insurance and everything, and talking about estate planning. We're going to have all the information laid out and my information too. And I'm offering those on the webinar a personal call with me also. So I will link my calendar there if you want to call and talk to me about real estate investing. All right. We can have, I don't want to go too long. It is 8:24. This is a long one tonight because there's some good information. So let's do a couple of minutes on some Q&A, Taisha. You ready? All right. Any questions?
Okay, now, Miss Taisha,
Okay.
I will ask you a question about, I have a property and I understand that it's like a lien that was taken out on it. Is it any way you can find out for me what I need to do to obtain the information to find out what I need to do to pay this lien off?
What kind of lien is it?
Well, my granny had a house, and I understand that it was a lien that was taken, an equity lien that was taken out on the property. And my dad just passed away, and I don't really know how to obtain the information to like take care of it.
Gotcha. Is it here? What I didn't make
It's
note
in
of what
Shreve.
state you were in.
It's in Louisiana.
Okay. So I'm only licensed in the state of Texas, so I won't have access to pull from Louisiana, but contact a title company there locally. And I don't
Okay.
know if Verna, do you have a resource there in Louisiana?
I do. I have some resources for you on how to look up the information. We can talk.
Okay. Be thankful a minute about another question. I just got to think for a minute. I wrote down some information over here. Just let me think for a minute.
No
I get
problem.
somebody else.
Any other questions, comments from anybody? Okay, well, we were on for a minute.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Anita, you have a question?
I don't have a question, but just a comment. I've been taking notes here. Um, Hi, Sarah.
Hey, girl.
Here
So
y'all go.
I had to interject that. So, but this is really so powerful. Like it's just leading like the circle talking about building generational wealth and the documentation. I was just thinking about that and just other ways to protect and build up our family legacies versus all that money you was talking about without having title insurance. That stuff we could be using that to build, to reinvest, to build real estate. But now we're going to be knowing to share and share and share. We have a circle, you and Verna, of how to do that so we can keep that generation wealth going in our families. So thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Absolutely. I tell people a lot of times that when you think about some of our grandparents, just generationally, what they had to go through to be able to even own something,
Yes.
how
Yes.
hard they've had to work, how much
Yes.
time it probably took for them to stack and actually get there. Why
Yes.
would we not do what needs to be done in order to protect that?
Right.
Yes.
How many times we see properties go because, $5,000 in back taxes or like, Big Mama paid and paid and paid and now the property's free and clear, but then we lose it to back taxes because we haven't done our due diligence or planned things properly or they passed away. And, Anita, I know you did that piece on estate planning. So listen, I can get on my soapbox about it, but yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Definitely, definitely. So look, if you're not following me, follow me on social media. I post information, a lot of information on Facebook and Instagram, Threads. I'm in TikTok. I didn't put that on here. And I'm putting this information here too on YouTube so everyone will have the ability to go back, listen to it. Because, sometimes you're just in the moment, then you have to go back and listen again to take your notes and stuff and ask questions. On social media, you can DM me. Some people got my information. I can connect people with folks in Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, DC, pretty much anywhere with folks with title companies, realtors, and everything. We got like our Black referral network going on, so we definitely can connect people. So if you're interested, again, I have the workshop that's going on April the 1st. And I am Taish. I have to apologize. I don't know how my bio got with your information, but I'm definitely going to tag it in the end. I'm gonna put it in this slide too when I post it so people can have your information and your company and everything that you're working with. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Sounds good. And if you guys have any questions after today, just contact Verna. She knows how to reach me. Or likely it may be a situation that she's dealt with before and she can help guide you through.
So what I like to do too before I get ready to end, I always like to take a picture with everybody on. So if you would like to put your camera on, if not, I got your name. And I just want everybody to smile because I'm gonna take a picture and post. So wait a minute. Thank you all. But don't hang up. I'm gonna end the recording session. But thank
Oh,
you
yeah.
all so much for attending No Kitchen Closings, Why Title Companies Are Important. Thank you again, Taisha, for all of that information. It was really, really great. I appreciate you. So I'm going to stop.